A very good morning to you. Many thanks for joining us on iBrand Daybreak this beautiful Thursday morning. How are you? I'm doing great. I'm sure you're asking me too. I'm doing good, and I'm sure you had a restful night. So if you're on your way to work, in traffic, at the office, wherever you are, just sit back and relax and enjoy all the goodies we have for you this beautiful Thursday morning as we usher you a step into the weekend. I am Margaret Opara, and as usual, I have my beautiful colleague here with me this morning.
Wonderful morning to you,
Good morning, Perpetua.
A wonderful morning to you, and thanks for joining us this beautiful Thursday morning on iBrand Daybreak. I am Perpetua FASO Peter. As you already know, today is Thursday, and that means more and more entertainment for you. Our topic of discussion today is one that it's got to me. Since yesterday, since we started talking about it, I've been in my feelings like, gosh, I can't wait to talk about it. So if I were you, I'll sit right back and wait for that moment to come. You wanted to say something?
Don't let it cut out of the bag.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. And of course, we'll bring you the news update, then the newspaper review, after which we'll then get into that conversation I told you about. You don't want to miss it, do you? Stay with us on iBrand Daybreak.
All right, right about now, we just go straight into the news update segment, but I want to give you a break up right now. We just got a very short break. When we come back, of course, the news updates is going to be standing by, or we will be taking the news updates when we come back after the short break. So stay with us. And after the news updates, the Nigerian Governors Forum and the Nigerian Labour Congress on Wednesday took a swipe at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation over what they described as the mismanagement of the fuel subsidy regime. The NGF and the NLC, according to a statement by the forum's head Media and Public Affairs, Abdulrasak Bello Bakindo, said this as a part of the resolutions of their meeting in Abuja. They particularly doubted the NNPC's fuel consumption figure. As Labour leaders and state governors berated the NNPC, the federal government disclosed that the corporation had submitted a 3 trillion naira budget to finance fuel subsidy in 2022. Reviewing the recent developments in the oil industry, the NGF and the Labour leaders agreed that the gap in the subsidy removal agenda was hidden in the untruth bandied by the administrators of the fuel subsidy. They noted that the NPC was the forefront of the mismanagement of the proceeds accrued therein.
And moving on to more stories today, we have this particular one from the home front. The International Monetary Fund has advised Nigeria and other developing economies with large foreign currency borrowings and external financing needs to prepare for turbulence in financial markets. The Washington-based lender also said countries such as Nigeria should consider extending their debt maturities as a means to contain foreign exchange fluctuations. According to the IMF, as the policy space diminishes in many economies, fiscal deficits are expected to shrink in most countries. It added that fiscal priority should be given to the health sector, and the medium-term fiscal framework should ensure that public debt remains sustainable. The IMF said while emerging markets were more resilient with higher reserves, financial vulnerabilities would remain, especially in countries that have higher public and private debt. It added that debt service burdens could rise significantly in the year as interest rates rise.
And now on the foreign scene, the House of Representatives on Wednesday condemned the resurgence of COUP in BURKINA FASO and other West African countries, saying it portrays great dangers to democratic values in the region. This is sequel to an urgent motion by a member, Julius Ihonvebre, with the title "Need to Condemn Increasing Resort to Military Coup in the West African Sub-Region." He lamented that there had been at least 4 coups in the sub-regions in the last 6 months alone, with recent cases being Burkina Faso and Mali. According to him, if the trend was allowed to gain traction, the sub-region could return to the dark era of what he described as inconsistencies in governance. The House also called for sanctions from Nigeria and other countries, as well as the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS.
Leaders of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, will hold an extraordinary summit on Burkina Faso and Mali on Friday. Ivory Coast Information Minister said on Wednesday after military takeovers in both countries. Army officers in Burkina Faso ousted President Roch Kabore on Monday in West Africa's third coup in 9 months, following military takeovers in Mali and Guinea. The regional bloc strongly condemned Kabore's ouster, saying he was forced to resign under threat and intimidation. The coup came amid an increasingly bloody Islamist insurgency that has killed thousands and displaced millions across West Africa's Sahel region, eroding faith in the country's democratic leaders.
And that's it on the news update segment. When we come back, we'll be reviewing some top stories on our national dailies this morning. We'll be right back. All right, now it's time to review some top stories, and I'll start with the Punch. The banner headline here says, Governors, NLC doubt fuel consumption. NNPC demands 3 trillion naira for subsidy. And that story is on page 2. There's 3 writers to the story that says, there's a lot of fraud in consumption and distribution figures coming from FireMe. Reps raise 28-member panel to probe daily fuel consumption refineries. And the third writer says, Nigeria risks bankruptcy as fuel subsidy continues. Experts warn the federal government. And moving further down, there's a story here that says, PDP primaries, 150 political talks, arrest raises tension. Fire State candidate clinches governor's ticket. Wike lied, claimed abandoned aircraft stolen in 2015. That's on page 9. Alleged sexual assault, Baba Ijesha drops no case submission, opens defense February 17. That's on page 5. Okorocha plans World Conference on presidential bid, 6 senators' prayers. The story, is on the page 13 of the Punch. And the bottom stream of the paper says, Akeredolu alleged massive payroll fraud, vows sanctions against culprits. That's on page 11. Inspector killed fighting herdsmen attackers. 2 bandits dead in Ogun Forest. That's on pages 4 and 5. Overwhelming majority of Igbo don't believe in secession from Ohanese and Igbo, and that's on page 18. Now to the earpiece of the paper says, power tariff shortfall hits 2.4 trillion naira in 6 years. That's a report from the federal government, and that's on page 19. Petrol landing cost rises to 282 naira per litre. Oil hits $90 US. And page 24 has the story. Page 8 has the story that says deduction from FARC to police fund illegal. Deduction from FARC to police fund illegal. Courts tell the federal government. And on page 9, Tinubu graduated from our schools in 6 Chicago University. Okay, I think I'll just stop here.
All right, and moving to another paper this morning, we'll be checking the Nation paper. The banner headline reads, Government to fund petrol subsidy with 3 trillion naira in 1 year. And we have riders and, of course, our questions. The first rider is FEC, that's FEC OK's 2.557 trillion naira supplementary budget. And the other, Presidency, we will borrow to meet obligation. Now we have the petrol subsidy questions, and these are the questions on the lips of Nigerians and a lot of analysts and experts on the oil and gas industry. The questions are, the first being, who are the beneficiaries? The second, will the appropriation of 3 trillion naira free the NNPC Limited from paying? Why are refineries not functioning? How much quantity of petrol do we consume daily? Why is smuggling difficult to curtail? How much crude is exported? These are the questions begging for answers. And moving away from the banner headline, Twitter conditions for Facebook, WhatsApp, you'll find that on the Nation paper. Inspector to other skilled, you also find that on the Nation paper. Moving on to some other stories on this paper. Rivers Fort's ex-commissioner's defense on dumped plane, that's on page 29. Another story, Sanwo-Olu, we will deliver Okwebi or Jota Bridge next year. That's on page 27. 2023, Saraki Okorocha to seek presidential ticket. Another story here, Fire Chase Man, Kola Wole is Ekiti PDP candidate. And we have a story here, court stops deduction of police funds from Federation account. And we have 2 riders. It's solely federal government's responsibility. And the other rider says, Wike, it's victory for democracy. Yes, this is Wike having another victory. This is the second one. Well, I think it's just a good one for him. And moving away from that one, APC adopts direct primary to pick Ekiti candidate. And we have a rider, 183,000 to vote at wards. That's the story here. And just one more story from the Nation paper before we move on to other stories. Akeredolu alleges compromise of Ondo payroll. Akeredolu alleges compromise of Ondo payroll. And that's all on the Nation paper this morning.
And now we move to The Guardian. The Guardian here says, the top story here says, Governors, Labour kicks as NNPC presents 3 trillion naira subsidy bill to FEC. Otherwise, this is saying NGF, Labour lenders seek forensic probe of NNPC's figures. Alleged fraud in consumption distribution numbers. Nigeria will pay price for more borrowings. Presidency confirms OPS concerns. And further down the story says, Ekiti. Fire Shares anointed candidate Kolawole wins PDP primary, and that's on page 2. On page 3 has the one that says, Reps rejects immunity for Senate President, Speaker and others. Under government, PDP disagree over bulletproof cars as Assembly bemoans lack of funds, and that's on page 8. So the ARP says, Rivers flaws federal government over police trust fund deductions. And the writer saying, Wike says it's victory for democracy. And that story continues on the page 5, or rather page 8 of the Guardian paper.
And moving on to Business Day, the banner headline on the Business Day reads, that says, hospitals struggle to retain staff amid migration tsunami. That's the banner story on the Business Day. And moving away from that, how Nigeria can ease subsidy removal pain. And then, despite high oil price, Nigeria's cost of borrowing spikes to highest level in 15 months. And we have next generation batteries get wet in dollar rains. And that's all on Business Day this morning. And now we'll move on to the analysis of the stories.
Of course.
The review.
The review. So, of course, the major stories for the past 3 days, it's about the fuel subsidy removal. Now, this one on the Guardian say Governors Labour kicks as NNPC presents 3 trillion naira subsidy bill to FEC. And we have a lot of stories on the fuel subsidy thing, the 3 trillion naira in 1 year. I'm beginning to wonder, you know, like Dr. Dayo rightly said yesterday, the news of the fuel subsidy removal already has sent, wrong signals. Dr. Dayo used words that some persons have already developed high blood pressure, because, you know, when it comes to fuel, there's always an effect that goes round and round and round in every facet of the economy, to the average Nigerian, to the consumer, to the manufacturer, to the parent, to the children, and all of that. So about the fuel subsidy, it's on and the Punch is saying governors NLC dealt fuel consumption, NNPC demands 3 trillion naira for subsidy. And now there's a part of the rider that got me that says there's a lot of fraud in consumption and distribution figures that's coming from Fire Me. So this statement, what do you think about this particular
okay,
statement?
for me, when it comes to the issue of, what is it called again? Fuel subsidy. Like I said, it's a perennial issue we've been on. And we know what the problem is. I don't know why we keep paying lip service to this issue. We know what the problem is. We know how to deal with it. But what is happening? Why do we have issues dealing with it? For crying out loud, we need our refineries to start running. We need them to run optimally. They are supposed to give us a joint production of 445,000 barrels per day, or you could say 450 barrels per day.
Yeah.
450,000 barrels per day. That's what we're supposed to have from these refineries. But what do we have today? We are not solving these issues. The question is, are there vested interest? Why do we take pleasure in taking our crude to other countries? Do we have refineries? Are there individuals that have refineries in these other countries? Or what is the relationship they have with these other countries and these other refineries? Why do they take pleasure in always exporting our crude and then bringing them back? What would it cost us? The amount of monies we have spent on the turnaround maintenance of these refineries, they are enough to build new refineries. But we are not doing that. For so long, we've talked about modular refineries. We are not doing anything. And we have illegal refineries that are running. And now we're talking about the fact that we consume about 100 million liters per day. And the question is, everybody is even doubting that figure. What do you mean? How do you say we're consuming up to that? And it's a good thing that the National Assembly wants to investigate that, to know what's happening. And we have a Minister of Petroleum Resources who is not talking to us.
Oh, I perpetual. If we go on and on and on, there's actually a report now that says Nigerians will spend approximately 6.8 billion naira. That's 6.732 billion naira in the purchase of premium motor spirit if the subsidy is removed. So if you look at the economic effect of all of these things, like you said, the solution to this thing is just one. You said it yesterday, right? There's something you mentioned about I think it just boils down to doing the right thing. I'm trying to pick your words, but you mentioned doing the right thing when you should do the right thing. I think that's just the...
It's just simple. We're going back and forth as if this is a big deal. We know what to do. Do this thing, and this conversation will come to an end.
All right. Perpetual, thank you so much for your analysis. I know you have a lot of things to say, but don't worry. After the show, we'll continue this conversation.
I know, right?
All right, now time to go into our discussion segment. Pep had already hinted you of what the segment is about. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. I'm going to do that after the short break, and the guests will be joining us live in the studio. So stay tuned.
Most people don't understand the magic of a perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products, from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution. And it's Blemiville Skincare and Spa. My name is Neil, and I'm proud to be a part of the Blemiville family.
All right, now it's time to let the cat out of the bag, the topic you've been waiting for. The various recent allegations of rape, sexual molestation, harassment, and bullying leveled against pastors by their female mentees or spiritual daughters has caused controversies regarding the issue of mentorship within the church. Now, just when it seemed the church had firmly moved past the Fatoyibo and Pusola Dakolo rape scandal, a new scandal just erupted with Nollywood actress Juliana Olayode accusing her spiritual father and pastor Timi Adikun of bullying her, sexually harassing her sister, among others. The latest scandal once again paints the church that should be a safe abode or a safe haven in a really bad light, and whips up the question of what an ideal spiritual father and daughter relationship should be. I'll take that again. What should be an ideal spiritual father and daughter relationship? I'm sure you have a lot to say. Please share your thoughts on our social media platforms and also the live chat below. Now, joining us to make sense of this discussion, we have Olufemi Agbola, the branch pastor of Lighthouse Saints Alive Ministries, Omole Phase 2. Good morning, and thank you for being on the show this morning. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
I think you did.
Good morning. Thanks for coming, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Interestingly, you're a pastor,
I am.
and I want to believe you're a responsible pastor. That's why you are. Yeah. You know, this topic is very delicate. That's why you are here today, because you're responsible. I believe that. And now we had the story of Juliana Olayode and Pastor Fatoyibo, which has been on the... aside Pastor
Fatoyibo, no, Pastor Fatoyibo was Bukola.
Bukola Fatoyibo. I know. I'm talking about Juliana,
okay.
her case, and the case of Busola
okay.
Dakola and Pastor Fatoyibo, and also some cases of other men of God have come out. I know one time it was Apostle Johnson Suleiman, right?
Accusation.
Accusation,
Yes,
right?
accusation.
Of course, accusations. It can only be accusations until proven. So accusations have come up. So now the question is, the church supposed to be more like a safe haven for people who are depressed, have gone through those things, and want to seek succor from God, or God, of course, through the people he had called to be shepherds to him. But when this church, when this places that are supposed to be safe haven have now become a place where people can always say, church is no, I don't want that. Even though not everybody can be like that. So it brings us to the question, what really is happening? Is it just a trend, or there has been openings? Because a part of the Bible that says when the edge is broken, I don't know if I'm correct, the serpent would bite. It has to be an opening for them to be a serpent to strike. So what's really happening? What are your thoughts on this?
So let's start maybe from the very foundation.
Okay.
It's where did the concept of father-daughter relationship or son-father concept starts in the church? Is it biblical? Is it being over pushed?
Okay.
Is it something that Christ spoke about, or did Paul spoke about it? So the issue of, in fact, is a new trend. The thing that Paul spoke about several times, he called Timothy his son. Yeah, and he called Titus his son. You know, and in all those writings, there was nobody he ever called his daughter. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going somewhere. When Paul was speaking to the church, to Timothy, when he was about to die, he said, treat the elderly as your fathers, the elderly men as father, treat the elderly women as your mother, treat the men as your brothers, and the young lady as your sister. And with a caveat, he said, with all purity. Knowing that, so the way he asked them to relate was, treat the men as your brethren, treat the women as your sisters. So there's also this thing we have brought in of trying to be fathers and mothers over people that are almost of the same age. So then he put a caveat that even the lady are treated as your sisters with all purity, because emotions can come in. Yeah. So don't say she's my daughter. It means she's saying that, look, things can go out of hand. So let there be boundaries. Your sister, stay with all purities. We have seen cases where there are no boundaries. You know, they can come to your house at any time. You can come to cook for you. You can go out with you at odd hours, you know, claiming that I'm okay, it's my daughter. But we are human beings. As time goes on, emotion comes in, feeling comes in, and people enter into a lot of trouble. So I think the church has overstretched these relationships. Yeah. Overstretched the human capacity, overstretched weaknesses that can be there, and troubles are beginning to happen. I also counsel people. It's almost safer let the mamas deal more with the girls, with the young girls. Yeah, with the young girls. Don't, a lot of things men of God think they can handle. I've had a lot of experiences. You know, some things, some personal things, some intimate things that are shared with you, and you feel that, well, I'm been born again for a long time, I can take it. Sometimes alone, thought comes. The images are replayed, and there are a lot of things begin to happen. Then emotions start growing, and you see people start struggling. So the men, the pastors who have male, should encourage their wives, to deal a lot with female issues.
In case when they are not married?
In case when they are not married, okay. If when they are not married, it goes back to Timothy. But Timothy was a young man. When Paul was writing to him, was a young man. He said, deal with the women as sisters with all purity. A lot of boundaries.
Exactly.
A lot of boundaries. No, don't go to hotel rooms alone with the girl, with the fact that, so now, let me also put this. I've observed in my work that many of these people that go into excesses started with a lot of sincerity. Yeah. Many of these people we call bad men of God, people that are predators. Many of them actually started with genuine cause. Many of them actually started well. I'm telling you, most of them.
So what happened along the
Yes,
line?
it's that lack of boundaries. Yeah, that lack of boundaries. If you keep relating with a female girl, immediate member alone in the hotel room, you're spending 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, emotions start coming in.
Well, this issue of hotel rooms, isn't it something we need to address? Because we have protocols, and most times these protocols are ladies, and they are the ones who are with our guest ministers in the hotel, trying to put things in place. Shouldn't we even start from this? Shouldn't we start addressing these issues rather than wait for them to get out of hand?
Yes, it should. That I was talking about boundaries. If there are protocols, let them be two. Yeah, two, maybe a male and a female. Yeah. So there's this. We have placed men of God on this pedestal that they don't have emotion, they are very anointed, they cannot be tempted.
Should they be sincere to themselves and with themselves?
Yes, that's another thing we have also lost. We have lost a lot of sincerity. No, people don't talk about their weaknesses, about their struggles. They come on the pulpit, speak only about their strengths, about their victories, and sometimes people look at them as if they can't be wrong. Even when this thing starts and they start misbehaving towards young ladies, the ladies feel as if maybe they have problem. And maybe they are the one tempting the man, and they feel, and they have asked us,
exactly.
Yes, they feel that they have problem, and that this guy cannot be wrong. He's always perfect, you know. So we need to also make people realize that, look, I have weaknesses, I have thoughts, I have challenges. Give me boundaries. Let my office door be open. Let somebody stay there. You know, don't feel as if you are invisible or you're a super person or a superman. So those things have brought a lot of young ministers, men, into a lot of troubles. So they start struggling. A lot of cases are coming up, even recently of a musician that came up, you know. A lot of things are coming up because people are not putting boundaries. So Paul said, deal with the young men, young ladies as sisters with all purity.
Now, this is us talking about the people who are probably sincere from inception, people who never imagined that this was going to happen to them. What about those who actually had it coming? They had the plan. They always knew what they wanted to do. How do we prevent innocent ladies from falling victims of this? Because, you know, there is this respect that some persons have for men of God. And you said something about the fact that a lady could think she's the one who has the problem. She's the one who has the spirit, the seductive spirit that's attracting the pastor and all of those. How do we help these young ladies, these young women know that what this pastor is doing isn't right?
Of course, it also goes back to a lot of foundation. Many people don't have personal work with God. And they depend so much on the pastors for prayers, for counseling, for the mind of God, for the voice of God. For the voice of God. For the pastor is a semi-God before she meets the real God. Yeah. So that's also a problem. So they cannot pray on our own. She cannot hear God, cannot get counsel.
But you know, there are situations where the pastor puts them in that situation, where he makes them feel like they can't hear God for themselves.
Yes. So we need to, as I'm saying, as I said, there are a lot of fundamental problems that have gone wrong in the body of Christ and in the church. You know, people are very dependent. Yeah. And there's a place in the scripture that says the people like it that way. The pastor like it's very dependent on them. Understand? We need to be people who can think on their own, make decisions on their own, hear God on their own, and encourage them. But some people feel threatened. Some pastors feel threatened when the person can pray on his own, can hear God, so feel as if I won't be relevant. So there's a lot of insecurity. Yeah, insecurity. Should build people who can take decision, who can pray, who can hear God, who can exhibit spiritual gifts. Understand? So not that you are the Lord and God of the. Somebody said that God has children. He's not a grandfather. Everybody is God's children.
Okay, so
Yeah.
at what point do we make this for the men, for the, I don't call them men of God, because yes, they are men of God, but there are people who pose to be men of God and are perpetrating evil under the umbrella of men of God. Of course, not everyone who calls Lord is actually the Lord's on the Lord knows. So let me not use the word men of God. At what point do we, these pastors that perpetrate this evil intentionally, at what point do we, does the society come up with them? Because I remember the case of Busola Dakolo and Pastor Biod or Biod.
Yes.
Jordan Fatu.
You don't want to use pastor.
I'm trying, not because I don't have an issue with him, I'm trying to generalize. I don't want to use the word pastor, but when that happened, a lot of people faulted Busola Dakolo and said how come she didn't talk since all of these years. But another aspect of it, a woman who has children, happily married, is doing well. You think she wants to jeopardize that future and that happiness because she wants to stigmatize a man of God, so to say. Since a man is made, she has all she needs, at least. She has wonderful children, an amazing husband, she's happy in her marriage. So you think she wants to let go of that because of that stigma or her children's name. So people came up to say, the pastor, how come she didn't talk? Now there's a lot of stigmatization. I remember a story of someone not talking about these things. Still a youth pastor, back then in school. It was still last year she mentioned it because she didn't want to be seen as the one. The pastor literally abused her and said she is the one who. I'm wondering how. And then I'm wondering, sorry, she's the one who seduced him and she should apologize. I'm like, why didn't you say this to me? I was a member of that church.
What would you have done?
So let's go back to campuses now.
Okay.
I think this problem is also
a lot
because it's even a teen pastor. The one
so
we're
you
talking
see
about.
a campus, a student. It's also a student is in 200 level or 300 level, and somebody is on 100 level. And it's already father over them. Where is the father coming from?
Exactly. Okay.
Understand?
He's closer to God.
So that's the problem. You are all students. Paul said, treat the brothers as brethren. So people, you are in campuses, you are in 400 level, she's in 300 level. She's your brethren. But there's this thing that, see them, you're already fathers.
Mama, Papa.
You go home like them on holidays. You have your own parent that gives you food. You come to campus, you're already a father. Father over what? Oh, how did they become a father? So this father thing as well, father-daughter thing. See, if you read Paul's writing, there was age involved. Yeah, Paul was much older than Timothy. He could be his father.
Actually,
he could be his father. And when Paul was writing Timothy, he said, he didn't tell Timothy, deal with any of those people under you as a son or a daughter. Say, deal with them as either your mothers or your fathers, or as brethren. He didn't say tell the young women as they are your daughters. No. So you see, young people, no experience, no experience. Guy is just 22, no experience, having daughters. You don't even know what it means to be a father yet, physically. So that you brought somebody to Christ, brought somebody to Christ doesn't mean you are the father. Paul wrote something, some of this Paul wrote about it. You're not me as the father, you are his brother. So people also put themselves in position and put power on their own hands and start entering into a lot of troubles. All right,
when we talk about spiritual leadership, does it have to be defined by age? Because we see situations where, I might be young, but I might really take my walk with God seriously and I might have some spiritual oversight over certain things. Doesn't that qualify me to be a leader spiritually?
Let me say it point blank.
Okay.
There is some level of age involved in spiritual leadership. I'm telling you. Can be anointed. You see a guy who is 40 years old. Okay. Anointed, he's doing very well. And someone in your church who is 65 years old. And you are claiming he's your son. It's not your son. He's not your son. He's an elder, he's a father. And Paul said, deal with such people as fathers. So he even said, rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father. So you don't say because you are the spiritual leader of the church, then all the women who are all married, you are never married yet, marry your children who are older than you, they're your daughters. It doesn't work like that. There's some level of, in post-writing, he made mention some level of age in this matter. You are anointed, you're the leader, but deal with things in proper concepts. People are older than you, much older than you, like your father. They are your fathers and not your sons in the Lord. They are your fathers. Maybe they are pastor, but they are still your fathers. They are elders in the church. So the younger women as well, some of them are almost your age mate. You are 40, they are 36, you are not married yet. You are beginning to say you are their father. You are their father. You don't have the experience, you don't have the emotion, understand? And you start entering into a lot of trouble. Emotions start bringing up. Sometimes there's a lot of some of these people that we call bad pastors. Some of them, sincerely, were really sincere at the onset. Yeah. But there were things that they were dealing with, they could not control, and they could not. Some of them are also proud. Because say, look, there's ego. There's this girl that is around me that I cannot control myself. Who should have given them counsels? Okay, please stay away. Get somebody, replace this person, bring a guy in. But some of them just keep crying until something wrong happens.
So, you know, in the society we live in, there are lots of bruised people.
Okay.
Bruised people. There are lots of people who feel they're not good in their own body, they're not good in their skin, they're not good for themselves. Insecure people. Complex. Exactly. Yes. So is it? And now a lot of these people seek succor from a lot of things. It could be hard drugs. It could be cultism. It could be following bad friends. Of course, evil communication would always corrupt good manners, as the Bible said. Yeah. It could be a lot of things. We have toxic masculinity, we have toxic femininity, we have a lot of toxic, and these people, they don't grow up like this. So maybe people need succor, they need that embrace, and they don't want to go the wrong way. So, and they now think people of the same faith would be the right person to do that. So now brings me to the question. Exposing your vulnerability to someone who you trust as a spiritual head, it's not really a bad thing.
It's not a bad
if
thing.
I see you as someone who can help me, I'm probably depressed. I am not depressed anyway, but an instance, and I see someone who can help me, and I expose my fears, vulnerability to you. At what point, how much exposure should I give to you? Because now it seems like the more you give exposure, the more it's taken for granted. So how much exposure am I expected to give to be able to get succor and not expose everything that makes me so dependent on you?
Sadly, we have to fault a lot of men of God who have lost the fear of God.
Okay.
Yeah, they've lost the fear of God.
The fear of God.
Yeah, they've lost the fear of God. So that they do things without, and nobody can catch me, no fear of God. Jesus Christ in his ministry, like we're saying, people were bruised, and those who were bruised could come to him and could be vulnerable around him. Like the woman that was washing his feet with her hair, kissing the hair, kissing his feet, and she was so vulnerable. And Christ did not take advantage of her, you know, and had to help her in that situation. So people, that's another part you are very correct about. People come and they've been bruised, they want to be loved, they've made mistakes, and they want a covering. Sadly, many men of God take advantage of them because there's no fear of God.
I like the fact you're honest. Even as a man of God, I like the fact that you're very honest.
They take advantage of them and it will keep happening as people will come who need help, who have been out there and they are trying to, they're not even sure how to dress, how to behave. They are, sometimes they do things seductively. They are not even aware that they are doing. So they need people that fear God. Who are so sincere. And I say, look, let's find a name. Yinka, these clothes you are wearing is too short.
How do we then identify the people who will be sincere and not take advantage? Because from what you said now, it's possible that while I have my insecurities and things I'm dealing with, the so-called pastor I'm going to also has same insecurities, but he's not talking about it because he also talked about pastors or leaders who do not talk about their insecurities. So how then do I make sure that the person I am opening up to is one who isn't harboring the same insecurities and weaknesses?
So I will go back to where I started from. It should be the, I call it the last option now. I want us to have a lot of same gender relationships for a start. Understand? A lot of same gender relationship, you come, a lot of security, deal with the pastor's wife, deal with women leaders, and deal with a lot of women and open your heart to them. Understand? Before you, at some cases, you need to maybe refer to the senior pastor and you're talking together. Understand? I have a friend who told me that a lady was sharing with him a lot of marriage issue and was telling him about issue with her husband, their sexual relationship. And see, as he was talking with him, he said the information was so much that he could not handle it.
That's too much information.
He said he could not handle it. They said he thought he could handle it. He said he could not handle it. So the next time he called, he fed him referred that to his wife.
Peter.
Yeah. He said he couldn't do, see the information, the details he was giving him. Said after the call, he said that he was aroused. He said he could not undo it. And that's sincerity. So I want a lot of same gender relationships, you understand? Deep things. Talk to a woman, talk to the pastor's wife. Some people say, okay, I have issue with women gossip, I prefer talking with men, I flow with men easily. No, flow with women. Try to flow with ladies. Sometimes there'll be a need to deal with the man, the female, the male part, but it should not be very frequent. Understand? Seldomly, but not very frequent. Okay. No, let me say something that John Wesley said. Okay. John Wesley said, deal sparingly with women and young girls. This is John Wesley from experience. Look, constant dealings.
You know, all the time Baba Adeboye talked about his secretary, and a lot of people came for him saying that, right, it's your problem. You're the one who has a problem. Why would you say you can't have a female secretary? But it seems that this is actually what you should do.
Yeah. See, I've been pastor for a while. Constant relationship with an opposite sex constantly brings emotion.
All right.
Yeah. So you need to be careful with it.
As we wrap up now, I know a lot of things have been said about the church, but that doesn't. I'm a Christian.
Okay.
I am too.
Proudly Christian, and the fact that a lot of things have been said about the church doesn't necessarily mean that the church is a body.
Yeah.
The eyes may be having issues, but the head will be functioning well. Yeah. Although it may affect now, because it's a body, we all need each other to work together. Yeah. That's what Christ wants, at least. And this is not me trying to be a pastor on the show today now, but then the fact I'm a Christian, I have to stand for my faith. I have to, so when you said the church, I do not like to generalize it. Of course, there are people who, like I said, call Christ and not Christ-like. Right? People who call on Lord and not the Lord's own. So how can the genuine ones in the church redeem themselves? I said this because Samuel Poso, I want to bring back, he had an issue. He came up to social media. It's enough to say he shouldn't have. He's a born-again gospel minister. But he came up to social media to expose his weakness, to apologize publicly.
That was after the damage had been done by the lady?
Yeah.
There was nowhere to run to
people,
at that point.
No, that's a different angle to it. A lot of people will say, some people say he was sincere enough to come. Others say, why would you? So, we know even people who have made mistakes, there's enough. God is a God of second chance, I know. People have made mistakes. They know they've done this thing and they genuinely want to change. So, how can we redeem? That's why Jesus came to redeem us from the curse of sin and death. We have made mistakes. He came to redeem. So, how can those who have made mistakes and are genuinely wanting to change, society would have names to call them. But how can they redeem themselves? Because God will always not reject you if you come genuinely. So I want to know how, for those who may be listening and have made some mistakes.
There's a need for a lot of sincerity. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of sincerity. Instead with our weaknesses, instead with our challenges. It's not very common again. People share only their, even on social media, they share only their success, the car they bought. Somebody say you bought a fine car, posted it, then 2 months later you sell the car. You don't go and say I've sold that car. You know, only the good parts. People don't talk about their sincere challenges, sincere weaknesses. And we need to go back where we can talk sincerely. I'm having a challenge with this one. Pray with me. Paul in his writing several times, he will say, brethren, pray for me. People don't ask for prayers again. Understand? So people can make mistakes. There's room for it. People can fall. People can be restored. And after being restored, those who are coming behind, you also know that we are not infallible. And we need to take precautions. Yeah, like I was talking about the way he said that he has male secretary. We need to take precaution. This thing is reoccurring in the body of Christ. Men are falling into sin with secretaries, with this, with that, with hotel, with. So we need to take precautions. Yeah, we need to. Sometimes there are times you have been in the presence of God, you feel invisible, as if no, my mind is okay. I cannot be tempted. I don't have any emotional need. It's not true. It's not true. So you need to take precautions. Don't take some risk. As a man, don't trust yourself too much. Like I said, with a female person, don't stay alone in the room. Don't stay alone in the hotel room. Don't say, okay, sleep there, there's no problem.
All right. Thank you so much.
So we need to take precaution and be sincere as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate his sincerity.
Yes, I like
he's a
that.
pastor and he didn't come, but pastors are saints, but he had to come from another angle. We appreciate your time in the studio.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
And now, of course, we'll let cut out of the bag. I'm sure you enjoyed that conversation. That was Pastor Olufemi Agbola, the branch pastor of Lighthouse Saints Alive Ministries, located in Omole Phase 2, Lagos, Nigeria. And that's a wrap of the segment. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with the last segment for you this morning. So please stay tuned.
Most people don't understand the magic of a perfect skin, the allure of a well-pampered skin. We bounce from skincare products to skincare products, from spa to spa. Looking for that ideal solution. I found the solution.
All right, now we have the sports segment for you, and of course, our sports correspondent is already right here in the studio with us. Good morning, Samson.
Good morning, Margaret. Good morning, Pep.
Good morning.
So what's happening in sports today? What happened? What's happening? What has happened? I want to know. Tell us. So, just us.
Well, it's the African Cup of Nations. That's the in thing. So let's start with that. The African Cup of Nations round of 16 ended yesterday.
Okay.
And you had Mali against Equatorial Guinea as well as Egypt against Ivory Coast. For the Ivorians, they were able to, force a draw in there. But that was a match wherein the goalkeepers were the ones that were the stars of the match. Talking about the goalkeeper for Egypt as well as Ivory Coast. It was an open affair, both highly contested, impressive offensive outlets. At the end of the day, the goalkeepers were the barriers that prevented goals from being scored in the game itself. And it's interesting to know that yesterday's matches were the ones that didn't have goals when it comes to the African Cup of Nations round of 16. Every other match had at least a goal scored, but both matches ended goalless, and had to go down to the lottery of penalties. And Egypt prevailed with Mohamed Salah scoring the decisive penalty to send Egypt into a quarterfinal. So it's good news for Egypt. The Ivorians, they played so well, but hey, they just had, they gave it their all. There's nothing to really, be worried about. On the flip side of things, the match between Mali and Equatorial Guinea was a bit of a shocker because the Malians, who were tipped as favorites to win the game and go through, were sent out crashing. It boiled down to the lottery of penalty shootouts again. You have to give kudos to the Malians. They tried so much to get a goal. It was an all-out offensive, display from them. But the Equatorial Guineans were content and sitting back and just soaking up the pressure, trying to hit on the counter-attack. At the end of the day, it paid, dividends for them because they were able to force a penalty shootout. And, when it comes to penalties, it can go either way. So the Equatorial Guineans won that 6-5, and the Malians are now out of the tournament itself. So you have Equatorial Guinea and Egypt completing, the quarterfinalist list when it comes to this year's edition of the AFCONs. Mali, one of the dark horses, are now out. The Ivorians, Ivory Coast, are also out. So good news. There we have it, talking about the round of quarterfinal setup for the African Cup of Nations. Now, moving away from the African Cup of Nations, let's talk about the Nigerian Samuel Kalu. Most Nigerians are familiar with the name. He plays for Bordeaux, but Watford has just signed him on a 3.5-year deal.
Wow.
Yeah, and he becomes the 4th Nigerian to play for Watford, which is, it shows you the stock of Nigerians in there. Remember, Odion Igalo once played for Watford as well. For Samuel Kalu, it's good to see him back on the field of play because last year he collapsed on the field of play when playing, in the French League 1 for Bordeaux, and there were concerns about heart attack, his health issues. So it's just good to see him back on the field of play. And let's see what he can do in the Premier League. He's a very good winger. He's just 24 years old. He has all it takes to definitely, flourish at the Premier League. And we look forward to seeing him now that he's there.
All right. About Samuel Kalu, so if this news you just thought about him made me remember something someone said, that Nigerian footballers are really good when they play in their different clubs, but when it comes to collaborating as a night as Super Eagles, it's just been flops here and here. So what's happening? Is it the team, or because we have good footballers?
Or the managers.
Oh, we have good footballers.
It's not just Nigeria.
But they
It's everywhere.
In India.
It's everywhere.
Clubs.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. The reason is this: they spend more time at their respective clubs.
Okay.
They spend more time with their club teammates. So there's that synergy, there's that understanding both on and off the field. The friendship is there, the bond, you can see it. There's a reason Mohamed Salah has struggled thus far at this year's African Cup of Nations, but thrives, like a shining star when he goes to Liverpool. So it's not just about the Nigerian Super Eagles. What you should understand is, oftentimes, for the international calendar, you probably have just 6 or 7 international matches in a year, but some of these players play over 60 matches within that same year for their club sides. So it's quite understandable that they will be used to, folks they spend more time with, and a manager that basically tutors them on various training setups or tactics to deploy setups and all of that, rather than matches. Another thing is, more often than not, when it comes to international matches, like probably your friendly matches or World Cup qualifiers, these guys fly in probably 2 days before the match,
just
or a
few
day
days before.
So there's really no cohesion in the team regards to training and understanding movements on and off the ball and all of that. That explains why players don't play too well for their nations.
All right, thank you so much, Samson. And now
Thank you for having me.
Of course, you'll see here with us today. We'll soon move now to the social media board segment. So there's something buzzing on social media. I'll just read it. Now, social media, Nigerians are questioning the cost of IELTS at 89,500 naira and its expiration after 2 years. So the question is, why is an English-speaking country required to take the test, and why the expiration? Now that's the question, and there is, of course, reactions from social media. There's something here that said,
okay, want me to take the reactions?
Yeah, sure, please take that.
Okay, talking about the reactions, we have Dear UK Home Office, Nigerians deserve this exemption. English is our official language in Nigeria and is also the language of instruction from kindergarten to the university level. In addition, an average Nigerian cannot afford the IELTS fee. I join Nigerians. That's still the same person speaking. I join Nigerians asking for a change in IELTS policy. Why should my English proficiency expire after 2 years? I heard the French proficiency test does not expire and it's way cheaper than IELTS. Help spread this till they respond. It's a win for all. And we have a lot of other persons who are also lending their voice to this. This is a conversation that has been on for a while. I remember there was a time a friend of mine who is a journalist also started this conversation, Kunle Adebajo and all of that. And it all boils down to the fact that we are an English-speaking country. Our language of instruction in our various schools is English. And right about now, we're talking to each other in English. I mean, and you're also listening to us. You can hear us because we're speaking in English. So that tells us that to a very large extent, we do not necessarily need this examination. But if at all we're going to write this examination, why should it expire after 2 years?
And paying that huge amount of money for it to expire. And then someone else said, it's not Nigeria, it's not a French-speaking country, but if a Nigerian writes there for 16,000 naira, the result is valid for life. But despite an English-speaking country, I have to write IELTS for 9,500 and my result expires in 2 years. Do the math. So that's a comparative analysis of the IELTS and the DEL. So a lot of reaction. And now this over 33,000 have signed a petition to stop foreign institutions from demanding an English proficiency test, the international English language testing system from Nigerians. So Samson, what do you have to say about this?
Well, folks have, over time talked about the IELTS exam as a means of exploitation. Some have regarded it as a residue of racism or colonialism and all of that. I think it's a bit absurd, really, when you ask a nation that has its official, language as English language, for its citizens to justify their ability to speak and write in English. It's a bit comical, to say the least. Now, beyond the issue of exploitation or, as a means of, racial residue and all of that, I think it's also more of an offensive, act when you tell students who have gone through, it's surprising to know that most, educational setups adopt either the UK, educational system or the US and all of that, educational system. And then you're still telling folks who have gone through that system to still justify their ability to read and write. It's ridiculous, to say the very least. But again, it's what has been in play for a while, and at some point there would always be a need for change or reforms of these policies, and that's what we're seeing right now with several Nigerians and Africans, speaking out against it. 9,005 is too much when you juxtapose that with what French-speaking countries require. But beyond the fee, which is quite exploitative, there's also the place of, if I speak English as a person, if that's the official language of my nation, and I've probably spent 25 years there, are you telling me I can't speak that language?
All right. Thank you so much, Samson, for that's the big question there. Thank you so much for joining us on this segment, and of course, you join us again tomorrow. Perpetual, thank you so much. And you viewers, our esteemed viewers, thank you a whole lot. Without you, there is no iBrandTV. You are the joy of us waking up this very early in the morning and coming to the office just to bring you amazing show. Is because of you. So thank you so much. Do well to join us tomorrow again, same time, same station. And I'll leave you with a quote, of course, as usual, from Henry Ford. And this quote says, "The whole secret of a successful life is to find out what is one's destiny to do and then do it. The whole secret of your successful life is to find out what your destiny is and do it. Not just do it very well." Tomorrow is Friday. We're going into the weekend. I'm sure you have a lot of lineup of events for the weekend. But don't worry, join us tomorrow. And of course, we'll usher you into the weekend. Thanks for joining us. My name is Margaret Opara.
And thanks for being a part of the show. I am Perpetua FASO Peter. See you some other time. Bye for now.
Thanks for watching. I'm Samson Olayode. Do have a wonderful day.